Hi everybody, it's John back again with another model inbox review. Interesting little tank this, isn't it? This is actually a Panzer 38T Hetzer tank destroyer, originally built as the Panzer 38T, or rather Skoda 38T light tank, and the Germans adopted the 38T as the Panzer 38T. And used it quite extensively in the early parts of the war. And then later in the war, around about 1943, they developed a version of a tank destroyer based on the chassis of the 38T, which could accommodate either a 76mm gun or the 105mm howitzer. And they called it the Hetzer tank destroyer, and it was an incredibly effective tank destroyer and started to come into Wehrmacht army lines around about 1944. The kit I'm building today, rather the kit I'm doing an inbox review on today, is this one. Originally released in 1974, it was actually released in the original format from ESCI in that year. And the kit, they didn't change the artwork an awful lot, even for some of the reboxings by other companies. But what they did with the artwork through Revell is very interesting. We'll see that in a minute. The 74 release, original release of the German tank 38T Hetzer by ESCI. Also in 1974, the company Polystil got a hold of the Hetzer tank from ESCI and called it Armour ESCI kits. And this was released in the same year in 1974. Can't remember where Polystil marketed their models, but I've got a feeling it was in Eastern Europe. But maybe somebody can put that in the comments and correct me if I'm wrong. 1974 went through to 1975, and Hasegawa Minibox also reboxed this kit by ESCI in the original artwork of the Polystil kit's box artwork, which was quite nice. The Hasegawa Minibox kit there from 1975. And then in 1975 also, Revell got hold of this kit from ESCI and sold it in Germany. And the interesting thing about the artwork is exactly the same as the ESCI kit, but they put a forest of trees in the background with some armoured vehicles and another Hetzer there, what looks like, and maybe it's a Jagdpanzer IV actually, I'm not quite sure. But there's like a convoy of vehicles in the back of the woods there, and the Hetzer's trundling along this one. In the ESCI kit, it was beside a lake or a river maybe, and it was completely on its own. Anyway, 1975 went through to 1977, and the kit was re-released by Polystil. Let's see if I can get that a little bit bigger for you. There we go. By Polystil in that year. Exactly the same kit as they released in 1974. Anyway, ESCI again re-released this kit in 1977, and the changes were that they had a 1/72 scale marquee and Monterre 1/72, and this was in yellow and this was in red, and in the original release it's all in yellow all the way across the bottom, and 1/72 scales here, and the ESCI logo made in Italy is here, but it's exactly the same box artwork. And there's also some information here which is a little bit more intense and in different languages. On the top left hand corner of the early release. So that's 1977 from ESCI, and then in 1984 Ertl got on the scene as well from ESCI, and ESCI ERTL got hold of this kit. This is exactly the same format as the original release from ESCI. As you can see, the differences from that one to the previous one, it's exactly the same kit inside. That was 1984. Then in 1992, ESCI Ertl completely changed the artwork and the box relative for sales purposes, and they produced a completely different image of the Hetzer with no background whatsoever. And this, it's all right. It's not a bad box artwork, but I prefer the original artwork, although the actual painting of the Hetzer is much better in this release in 1992. 2008, Talieri got hold of this kit as well. This is the same model, the ESCI kit is released all those years ago. And Talieri, yeah, they probably got better decals. Maybe they do a couple of different options, I'm not sure, but the parts are exactly the same. 2008 from Talieri there. And then in 2019, this is a very recent release, a company called Platts have released a Hetzer tank in the Girls in Panzer range to follow the Girls in Panzer TV series. I've never seen any of these programs, but apparently they've got quite a cult following. And the shows, although they're typical hentai, they're a little better written than most of the hentai shows, according to a lot of Western people. So I don't know, maybe it's worth having a look at these shows and see what the score is. They're supposed to be quite funny. But that's the Platts release of the Panzer 38T Hetzer for Girls in Panzer. Just showing an image here now. This is a Hetzer in a museum. I'm not quite sure where this museum is, but I don't think it's Bovington. I'm pretty sure it's not Bovington. There's a Tiger tank in the background, and that's definitely not 131. And there's lots of German vehicles in this this scene here as well, but it does show you a good side view image of the Hetzer. And this is exactly the same kit that you get in the ESCI box. It's exactly the same version of the Hetzer tank. Yeah, it's a nice little, very easy to hide in bushes, I would have thought, and it was a very effective tank destroyer. So that's the Hetzer anyway. We'll just pan the camera over, like we normally do, and show you this kit. There it is in all its glory. And there we go, there's the kit in question. This is the original format with the yellow marks all the way across the bottom and 1/72 scale. And then you've got this information here at the top. It's in 7 different languages, I think, and it just says inside one plastic model kit. Quite interesting. The back is exactly the same as the front. Sides just shows you the kit number 8011. There's some information on the side there as well. Yeah, not an awful lot to write home about, is it? I'll get the parts out anyway and just show you what's inside here, because there's not an awful lot inside here. And to be honest with you, I have been trying to get hold of one of these kits, one of these Hetzer kits, for quite a while. But unfortunately, the parts show that this kit is a 70s release. And I was a little bit disappointed, I'll be honest with you, and I'll tell you exactly why when we get the bits out and have a look and see what's going on. First of all, we'll go through the instruction leaflet like normal, and then the decals in a minute. The instruction leaflet is an A5, maybe slightly smaller A5 piece of paper that folds out into what looks like a little bit longer than A4. Interesting. They got these photographs on the instructions. I don't know where they got them from, but they're quite easily accessible on the web now. You can get this on the Wikipedia page. I'm not sure where, but I have seen that picture on an internet search before as well. There's basically 5 steps to building this kit, and there's a paint plan on the back, a decals guide, and on the front page you've got the typical stuff that you get with ESCI kits. You get a picture of the artwork on the front, some stats and specs on the kit, the original tank and some performance data. Usual stuff, and then you've got a parts plan on the inside, which is quite nice. I've always been a fan of parts plans. The thing about ESCI parts plans is that their numbers for each part are exaggerated greatly, which is great for me because my eyesight is not as good as it used to be. Section 1, you're basically putting the chassis together with the road wheels there, the drive sprocket and the idler sprocket, and the chassis bogie members, and there's one return roller. That's interesting, isn't it? Section 2, you're basically putting the 105mm howitzer into the housing that goes into the top of the body shell. That's quite easy. Section 3, you're marrying everything up with the side panniers. This is like side spaced armour here. This it's quite nice. You've got some tracks that go into there as well. I'm not sure whether that goes on the top or whether it goes underneath. I think it goes underneath. It might become more apparent when I think it does go underneath when you test fit everything to put everything together. But there's some features on the front glacis plate, lower glacis plate rather, part 34 goes into place. and the tracks go into place, and once again they're telling you to use a heated knife. I tend to use staples to put my tracks together because they're usually hidden by something on the kit somewhere. Now, there's two different versions you can build of this tank. You can build a wading version of the Hetzer with a periscope here and an air breather built in, or you can build a standard kit which doesn't need that part at all. And they're also suggesting that you stretch sprue over a heat source for an aerial, and I think the aerial goes across the front of there, which that's interesting as well because it doesn't stick up from the tank. So there's quite a few parts. There's not horrendously loads of parts going on here, and there are two crew figures here which have multiple opposing arms, which is quite nice. One of them appears to have a set of headphones on. Quite nice. The instructions are quite easy to follow. There are a couple of bits and bobs on it there that are a bit vague to follow. Now the decals, and try not to laugh. These are the decals from ESCI, and these are typical decals that you got from ESCI in the 70s. They're pretty diabolical, aren't they? They'll probably apply quite a-okay, you know, I can't see them being an issue, but they're not great. They're quite raised. The backing film appears to have aged quite well. I don't think they'll give me an issue, but they ain't cartograph, are they? So that's the decals, not much to write home. The tracks are typical horrible 70s style rubber tracks, those silver vulcanized rubber tracks, and they are abysmal. You've got a spare link there as well. The one thing I must say about them is that they appear to be quite nicely cast. I hope that's going to come into focus for you a bit there so you can see what I mean. They are quite nicely cast. I was quite impressed with the tracks, but how they'll go together, because they don't bend very well, is something else. And this is the reason why I was a little bit disappointed with this kit, because to me these parts appear to be a little bit waxy and heavy set. They remind me very much of a limited run kit. The parts are they're okay, they're quite finely cast, but they are a little bit heavy set here and there. That gun, for instance, that could have been better. And there's also, I mean, the side panniers, they're not badly moulded, they're just a little bit heavy set, aren't they? And then we come to the big no-no for me. Now, that's the bottom of the chassis. The problem is, that's the inside of the bottom of the chassis. That's the bit that faces up, so you can't see that. But look what they've done to the underside that you can see. They've put ESCI in a flag on a motif on the bottom, and that's going to have to be sanded down if you want a really, really good image, really, really good finish. The chassis members, they look okay as well, don't they? You know, you're not going to see an awful lot behind there, so the detail on that seems to be adequate, not really an issue. But I was a little bit disappointed. The quality of the castings on this kit isn't as good as I was hoping they were going to be. And also, the crew figures, they look a little bit like 70s Hasegawa crew figures, don't they? They've got that sort of cartoony look about them. The cast of the upper hull isn't too bad. It's quite nicely detailed. It's not too bad at all. And the actual the road wheels, well, that's exactly what they look like. So that's not too bad either. There is some rivet details there, wheel nuts and whatnot going on. Yeah, the camera's not coming into focus very well today, is it? But that's the parts, which is that's okay, isn't it? I wish they were a bit better than this. Now this kit is a little bit of a pig to get back into the box, so you'll have to bear with me because I don't want to lose anything if something comes off sprue. So I'll just put this into the bag as best as I can very quickly. There we go. That's going all right. And then put this into here. Put the tracks in here. go in. There we go. And then put the decals into here so I don't lose any of those either, because losing bits and bobs from these kits when they're this old is a bit of a bind, isn't it? You're never going to get replacement parts. Anyway, that's the parts on the kit. So, what about the model and the options? There's the kit, just give you something to look at whilst we're going through this. The model we're unboxing with you today is the ESCI Skoda Panzer 38T Hetzer tank destroyer. Its serial number is 8011. It's moulded in 1/72nd scale, and its release date is 1974. There are decals for 4 different tank destroyers, but which divisions they belong to, it's pretty impossible to say. The decals, as I said, they are pretty nondescript, and even the paint guide is pretty nondescript. There's not an awful lot you can see. What, you know, it's a matter of just putting on what you want, I think. The dimensions of the tank are 2.5 inches long by 1.5 inches wide by about 1 inch high on its tracks, and there are 72 parts on 2 grey plastic sprues and 3 parts on a silver vulcanized rubber plastic sprue, comprising 75 parts in total. Now, the options and costs I've only covered for the smaller scales from about 144th to 148th. If I go into 35th, the options become absolutely incredible. Which is interesting, but in the 144th scale, Dragon do quite a nice Panzer 38T Hetzer, and they also do a Jag Panzer IV in the same box, and those two kits retail for about £8 to £10. In 187th scale, SDV and SMK do Panzer 38T Hetzers. Got no pricings on either of those two, but they are standalone kits. In 76th scale, Fujimi do a Jag Panzer 38T in retails for about £4 to £6, and MR Model Bow do a Jag Panzer 38T Maricel, which is an angular, quite heavy set body shell for the Hetzer. If you see pictures of it, you'll see the difference straight away. It's quite easy to tell the difference. I think this kit might be resin cast. I've got no details and prices on that either. Bachmann Fujimi, they do a Jag Panzer 38T Hetzer, which is a reboxed Fujimi kit. No pricings on that, but it's probably about £5 to £10. 1/72nd scale models, Abteilung 46 do a Flam Panzer 38T Hetzer Mark II with a term in a resin cast kit. No prices on that. Attack Hobby models do a Jag Panzer 38T Hetzer, a Berger Panzer, a Flak Panzer 38T, which is basically a Hetzer with an installation on the top with a 20mm anti-aircraft gun, and a 150 SIS armed Hetzer, which is a standard Hetzer with a heavy set mount to mount a 150mm howitzer gun in the front of the tank. These kits are all individual boxings, and they retail for anything between 20 and 25 quid. Blue Square models, they do a Panzer Schlepper 38T Hetzer, a 180mm cannon set, and Hetzer 3 mid-term. They're all resin kits. The 180mm set is actually an interesting kit because it's basically a low loader with a Hetzer body shell at each end to propel this massive gun, with a 180mm howitzer unit put in the middle of the low loader. No prices on any of those, but they look quite nice. E-size Jag Panzer 38T Hetzer, it retails for anything between 7 and 12 quid. Model Trans Model Bow, they do a Racket Panzer 38T Hetzer, which is a resin cast kit. No pricings on that. And UM models do a Jag Panzer 38T Hetzer, 150mm Hetzer, and a 75mm Hetzer and Berger Panzer for about £8 to £12. These are all individual boxes as well. All of the following kits are based on the ESCI kit. ESCI Ertel's Jag Panzer 38T Hetzer retails for £8 to £12. Hasegawa's boxing of the same kit is £12 to £14. Italeri's boxing of the same kit is £24 to £25. Platz's boxing for Girls in Panzer edition is 28 quid to up to 90 quid, and no, I've never seen it sell for 90 quid, but believe it or not, there are some people who want to try and get that much money for a 72nd scale kit. The Polystyrol boxing of the kit is £8 to £10, and Revell ESCI build a Jag Panzer 38T Hetzer for £20-ish. 1/56th scale Italeri build a Jagdpanzer 38T Hetzer for £18 to £25, and Rubicon Models do a Jagdpanzer 38T Hetzer for £19 to £23. In 1/48 scale, Bandai do a really nice kit of the Jagdpanzer 38T Hetzer for £25 to £35, and the Tamiya kit, which is probably the best in terms of quality, overall accuracy, and crispness of the parts, mouldings and whatnot, but that's probably what you'd expect. They build a 48 scale Jagdpanzer 38T Hetzer for £23 to £29. Now Fumin Models, they rebox the Bandai kit. That can retail anything between 25 and 30 quid. Now conclusions. This kit is a bit of a mixed bag because the kit, although it's an old mould, just looks like a modern limited run kit with parts that look heavy set, and the decals are very poor, but there are lots of detailed parts even if they do look waxy. I have wanted to get a hold of a Hetzer for a while now, and kits that are probably better in the 70 scales would be Attack Hobby and Fujimi, and if you wanted to go to a slightly bigger scale, I would opt for the Italieri kit in 1/56 scale and the Tamiya offering in 1/48. I do think that the Platz kits are overpriced playing on the Girls in Panzer franchise. The cheapest I've ever seen advertised on eBay for is about £30, with some kits sourced from Japan coming up to over £60 and some reaching 95 quid. That's the inbox review finished for the Hetzer. I hope this video has been of some use. If you have any questions, queries, just pop them in the comments box like normal, and I'll try and get back to you as quickly as possible. And I do hope all your projects are running smooth. I hope you guys are all staying safe at home. But let's just make sure we have some fun out there and let's get some modelling done, shall we? Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye bye for now.